Hi, sci-fi fans. Welcome to Visionary Stories, in-depth sci-fi stories with an uplifting theme. Please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Thank you.
To the Fugitive Alien Bride. The stars looked different from this angle, distorted, like streaks across shattered glass. Narla gripped the yoke of her stolen Scout-class cruiser, breath shallow, blood trailing from a gash above her brow. Red alerts screamed in a language only she understood, a harsh mix of warning tones and garbled noble encryption. The ship's stabilizers were gone, propulsion was failing, and Terra's upper atmosphere was ripping her apart. Her escape hadn't gone as planned. "Just hold together a little longer," she hissed, speaking to the ship like an old friend. Her fingers bled over the controls, metallic and iridescent. The stolen gold and diamonds, currency she hoped would matter on primitive worlds, tumbled free of their pouch, weightless in the turbulence. The hull shrieked as another stabilizer blew, flinging the craft into a spiraling descent. Below, Terra waited, untamed, unaware, and exactly the kind of nowhere Narla needed. She hit the tree line at terminal velocity. Branches tore across the fuselage. Flames licked the air as the ship crashed through a thick canopy of ancient pines, skidded across muddy terrain, and slammed to a smoking halt at the edge of a dark, open field. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of cooling metal. Inside the cockpit, Narla slumped forward, eyes closed, blood dripping to the floor. Her right arm twitched. A small implant behind her ear glowed briefly, processing damage, scanning vitals, updating royal encryption protocols. Then all went still. Ken Doyle didn't sleep much these days. Nightmares weren't the problem. Those had faded long ago, replaced by something quieter, something colder. After a decade in the Navy's Black Ops ghost units, the absence of violence felt more disorienting than the chaos had. The stillness of the Colorado wilderness, especially this deep, this remote, offered the kind of peace that felt earned, but never comfortable. He sat on his porch in flannel pants and a black t-shirt, boots unlaced, sipping bitter coffee as the moon hovered over the treetops. His beard had gone gray before its time. So had his eyes. The sky flared suddenly, blue-white and fast. Ken stood, coffee forgotten. Then came the sound. A piercing shriek like ripping metal, and a low boom that shook the windows in their frames. Birds exploded from the trees. Somewhere beyond the forest ridge, something massive had crashed. He didn't hesitate. 10 minutes later, he was moving fast through the woods, flashlight strapped to his rifle, boots crunching over fallen pine needles. The scent of scorched earth reached him before the smoke did. When he cleared the last line of trees, he froze. A spacecraft, not anything human, lay broken in the center of the field. Its hull was scorched black, its design sleek and unfamiliar. The metal curved in ways that betrayed an intelligence both advanced and artistic. Symbols, etched the sides, glowing faintly. Ken raised his rifle on instinct. Something moved. A panel on the side creaked open, then collapsed, revealing a narrow corridor and the silhouette of someone crawling out. She was humanoid, but unmistakably alien. Tall, athletic, skin a deep, rich green that shimmered under the moonlight like polished emerald. Her long black hair clung to her back, matted with sweat and blood. Her eyes glowed gold in the darkness. Eyes that widened as she saw him. She collapsed. Ken rushed forward, dropping to one knee beside her. His military training kicked in. Check for breathing, pulse, injuries. Her skin was warm, almost feverish. Her breathing was shallow but steady. "Narla," she whispered, barely audible. "Don't take me back." Ken blinked. Her English was perfect, accent strange but precise. "Who's chasing you?" he asked. No answer. She was out cold. His gaze flicked to the woods behind him. No lights, no pursuit. Not yet. With a grunt, Ken slid one arm under her knees, the other behind her back. She was surprisingly light for her height, and something about the ridges under her skin, like faint circuitry, made his spine tingle. "Tech?" Armor? Genetics? He didn't know. Not yet. He carried her home. The farmhouse was simple but secure. Concrete foundation, steel-reinforced doors, solar backup, well water, and more weapons than a prepper's convention. Ken laid her on the old leather couch and grabbed his med kit. As he cleaned the blood from her temple, he noticed small shimmering dots under her skin. Nanotech, maybe? Or some kind of biological interface? Either way, she wasn't standard. She stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and for the briefest moment, she looked like a cornered animal. But she didn't scream. She just stared at him, watching him work. "You're not military," she said softly. "Not anymore." "Then why help me?" Ken didn't answer right away. He pressed a bandage to her forehead, taped it down, then sat back, watching her in the dim light. "Because you didn't ask for help. And because whatever that thing is," he nodded toward the direction of the crash, "doesn't belong to anyone I trust." Her lips parted slightly, almost a smile. "You're suspicious. That's good. I'm alive because of it." A long silence passed between them. Finally she said, "I'm Narla of Vayari, first daughter of the House of Tyrell, heir to the Covenant crown. Or I was." Ken raised an eyebrow. "Royalty?" She nodded, then winced as pain shot through her ribs. "Escaped a forced binding. He was small and cruel and fond of showing off how powerful his family was. I refused. Let me guess. That's punishable by imprisonment or death." "Both," she said, "unless I got off-world and vanished." "Well," Ken said, standing, "you picked a good place for that." She looked around the old cabin, her eyes landing on an antique photo. Ken in uniform, standing beside two fallen comrades. Her gaze softened. "And what about you, Ken Doyle? What are you running from?" He didn't answer. He just turned toward the kitchen. "I'll make some coffee." Ken set the needle down beside the bowl of antiseptic, watching the last of the green stitches dissolve into her skin like mist into morning fog. Whatever tech her body had, it worked fast. Her wound was nearly closed already, and her muscles moved with deliberate grace, like a soldier or a predator. She sat atop his kitchen counter, legs swinging slightly, wearing one of his old t-shirts that hung too loose on her frame but didn't quite hide her curves. Her skin, a deep polished green, shimmered under the overhead light. She carried herself with confidence, with a hint of sensual sway. She was tall, about 6 foot, with long, muscular legs and arms. Her stomach was well-toned and solid, and her breasts stood up large and firm. She reminded him of a runway model dipped in green. She watched him work with glowing gold eyes that tracked every movement. "You're quiet," she said. Ken shrugged, rinsing his hands. "I'm used to quiet. You live out here in exile. I call it retirement." She tilted her head. "That sounds like something a liar would say." He gave her a look, but there was no anger in it, just that unreadable calm she found so strangely alluring. "I've told you who I am," she said, voice lower now. "It's your turn." He dried his hands and leaned against the sink. "Name's Ken Doyle, retired Navy SEAL. Black Ops for a while. Got out before the politics got worse than the enemies." "You've killed people." "Sometimes." She nodded, like that made him easier to understand. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, "but I need you to understand the stakes." Ken folded his arms. "Go on." Narla hopped down from the counter and walked to the table. With a flick of her fingers, she projected a small blue sphere into the air above her palm, light from a subdermal implant he hadn't even noticed. It showed a 3-dimensional glyph, a spire ringed by orbiting moons, crowned by a diamond-shaped beacon. "This is the seal of Tyrell. My bloodline carries the royal marker encoded at birth. Genetic. Unforgeable. That's why they need me. I'm not just heir to a throne. I am the throne. They don't get full planetary control without me." Ken raised a brow. "And you just told me that. Why?" She closed her hand, and the image vanished. "Because. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to trust me before I earn it." He stared at her. "That's not how trust works." "No," she said, stepping closer. "It's how faith works." They locked eyes. He held the silence like a weapon. But she didn't flinch. Later they drove through the forest with flashlights and purpose. Narla guided him to the crash site, which still steamed in the cool night air. The scent of scorched earth lingered thick and metallic. She moved with surprising strength, clearing debris and prying open a lower hatch. Ken kept watch, rifle slung over his shoulder, but his attention was never far from her. From a hidden compartment, Narla pulled a heavy satchel. When she opened it, Ken's breath caught. Gold ingots, raw and polished, diamonds the size of grapes. It was obscene. "I heard they still value these here," she said. "Hard to know what primitive economies accept." He gave a short, humorless laugh. "That'll buy you an island, or get you killed fast." She tossed him a bar of gold. "Hide it then. Help me disappear." She knelt beside the ship and placed her hand against the interior panel. A glow pulsed beneath her palm, followed by a soft click. She reached inside, withdrawing a small, jagged black shard, barely bigger than a fingernail. "Tracker," she said. Dead now. Ken watched as she slid it between two rocks, ground it beneath her heel, then turned to the ship. With her help, he used his old backhoe to pull brush and dirt across the wreck. They worked in silence, side by side, until nothing was left but disturbed earth. As dawn tinged the sky pink and gold, Narla leaned against a pine and stared at the horizon. "That's the last trace," she said. "No one can find me now, not unless I want them to." Ken leaned on the shovel. "Then what?" She turned to him, those glowing eyes catching the first light of morning. "Then I offer you a deal." He didn't move, didn't speak. "I need sanctuary," she said, walking slowly toward him. "A place to recover, a place to be free. I'll stay out of sight, be useful." She stopped a foot away. Her voice dropped. "But I'm not just useful. I'm trained in over 30 forms of pleasure, tactile, psychological, sensual. I can cook, I can clean, I can fight, I can learn, I can heal. All I need is shelter." Ken's jaw tightened. He stepped closer, her tone suddenly intimate. "Hide me, and I'll be yours. Not your guest, not your burden. Your mate, your pleasure, your goddess." His eyes didn't blink. "Then, no." The word cut clean. Narla's brows lifted, surprised, but only for a second. Her grin was pure mischief. "But something in you hesitated," she said. Ken turned away, picking up his rifle and starting back toward the house. "I'm not the man you think I am." She watched him go, then whispered to herself with a gleam in her eyes, "Not yet." The necklace looked simple, thin chain, dull silver, a teardrop-shaped crystal set in a black metallic clasp. But when Narla activated it with a soft tap against her collarbone, her features shimmered like heat waves on pavement. A moment later, the green hue faded. Her eyes dimmed to a rich amber. Her hair stayed dark, but her skin now appeared tan. "Sun-kissed." "Better?" she asked. Ken looked up from the woodpile he was splitting. His gaze lingered. "You'll pass in daylight, as long as no one stares too close. Humans are more polite than you think," she smirked, spinning slowly in place. "Besides, the projection's not just visual, it subtly nudges perception, makes you think I belong. Until someone with a drone or thermal cam walks by." Her smile widened. "That's what the anti-scan node is for." She walked toward him, hands on hips. "You going to keep chopping wood all day, or finally show me how you earned all those medals?" He raised an eyebrow. "You think you can take me?" "I don't think," she said. "I know." They set up a training ring behind the barn, makeshift mats over dirt, a few upright posts for grip work, and enough space for movement without broken bones. Narla stood barefoot, in tight training shorts and a tank top she'd cut herself. The necklace remained active, but Ken was already used to seeing her both ways. They circled each other. "Rules?" she asked, crouched and coiled. "No weapons. First one pinned stays down." She lunged first. Fast. Too fast. Ken barely dodged as her legs swept low, forcing him to roll and recover. She was strong, more than her lean frame suggested, but her strength was raw, no wasted motion. Her strikes came with intent, not flair. Still, he was tactical. He baited her, Feints, low grabs, shoulder leverage. Twice he got her to stumble. The third time, she laughed as she flipped over his back and landed on top of him. "Pinned," she said, straddling his hips. He looked up, chest heaving. Wasn't fair. She leaned down, her breath warm on his cheek. "Nothing about me ever is." He grabbed her wrists and rolled hard. Now he was on top. They stared at each other, panting, sweaty, tangled limbs in the dirt. And then it changed. Her fingers slid beneath his shirt. His hand moved up her thigh. Their mouths met in a sudden, searing kiss. Hot, desperate, with weeks of tension behind it. She pulled him down, hard, with a growl from deep in her throat. Clothes ripped. She rolled him again and pinned his wrists above his head, muscles shifting under her flawless skin. She moved like liquid fire, controlled, precise, erotic in ways he didn't know a body could be. Every muscle tightened and released in perfect rhythm. She wrapped around him like a second skin, squeezing, teasing, commanding. He gripped her hips and thrust upward. Her gasp turned to a moan that echoed off the trees. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't careful. It was need. He flipped her again, took control, and drove into her like the war still lived in his blood. She took it all, challenging, matching, gasping, laughing, between cries. She didn't just respond, she played, adapting her body's tightness, angle, even inner pressure with precise, erotic microcontrol. It was unlike anything he'd known. Wild, alien, perfect. Later, they lay tangled in the grass, dirt still clinging to their skin. The necklace was off. Her green shimmer had returned. Her eyes glowed faintly again, though they were heavy now with satisfaction and something softer. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You know," he murmured, "you're beautiful like this." She blinked. "Not in disguise?" He shook his head. "Not even close." For a moment she didn't speak. Then she curled tighter against him, resting her head on his chest. "I was told no human would ever say that," she whispered. "Then they never met the right kind of human." Back inside, after the shower, after the silence that didn't need filling, Narla returned to her satchel and opened the compartment that had once housed the tracker. It wasn't glowing, but something was pulsing beneath the false bottom. A soft, rhythmic ping, barely visible, buried under layers of shielding. Her face darkened. She didn't wake Ken. Not yet. The forest held its breath. Boots landed silently in soft pine needles. Shadows moved between trees, shaped like men, but sharper, sleeker. 5 of them. Black visors reflected moonlight. Their weapons were sleek rods with glowing tips. Lethal, silent, and meant to stun. The strike team didn't speak. Didn't need to. Their helmets synced movement. Their scanners pulsed with heat signatures and quantum whispers. One target. One royal fugitive. Extract alive. Kill any who interfere. The lead scout lifted a clenched fist. "Hold!" The cabin was ahead. Narla's eyes snapped open. She sat upright in the bed, heartbeat already rising. The room was still dark, but she smelled it, faint and bitter. Auric dust, tactical-grade cloaking powder, manufactured by the Trell Elite Guard. She slipped from under the sheets, every nerve alert. Her implant flickered, deactivating the necklace's disguise. Ken stirred. "What's wrong?" "They're here." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Strike team. There are 5. 5 at least." He was up instantly, grabbing the rifle from beneath the bed. "How close?" "Too close." The first soldier breached the rear door, silent, efficient. Narla met him with a spinning elbow. The strike cracked his visor. He staggered back. Then Ken dropped him with a shot to the knee. The cabin exploded into motion. Another came through the front window, only to be tackled mid-leap by Narla. They crashed into the table. She was a blur, striking, twisting, hissing. Her knee drove into his throat. Ken moved with precision. His shots didn't kill, but everyone dropped a target. He flowed through the space like a machine, sidestepping, pivoting, firing short bursts. "Narla," Door! She ducked, and he nailed the soldier behind her clean in the chest. The man slumped backward with a groan. They moved in sync now, back to back, rotating around the small living room. Smoke drifted from a flash canister, blood smeared the wooden floor. Another attacker crashed through the ceiling hatch. He moved faster, stronger. "Ranked officer!" Narla leapt but mistimed her angle. The enforcer slammed her against the wall. Her ribs cracked. "Target secured!" he barked in Trellan. She spit blood in his face. Ken turned, too far to shoot without hitting her. Then he moved. A sprint. A low roll. A rising strike with the butt of the rifle that shattered the enforcer's knee. As the man buckled, Ken drove his shoulder forward, lifting him and slamming him through the wall. The enforcer didn't get up. Ken dropped to his knees beside Narla. "Talk to me," she coughed. "Ribs. Not broken, just cracked." He helped her sit. Her glowing eyes flicked to the last man outside, crawling toward a beacon flare. She lifted Ken's pistol from the floor and fired once. The flare exploded in his hand. Silence returned. Smoke drifted. The cabin walls smoldered. They sat amid the wreckage, breathing hard. Morning light filtered through broken windows. They stood by the edge of the woods. Narla held her satchel, what little she had left. Her hair was wet from the stream, her face still streaked with bruises that hadn't yet healed. Ken packed light, rifle, bag, a few supplies. "You sure about this?" he asked. "They'll send more," she said. "They know I'm here now. If I stay, you die with me." He stepped closer, one hand brushing her cheek. "Not if we run together." She leaned into his touch. "I thought you were done with fighting." He smiled faintly. "I thought you were done being royalty." They kissed, slow, deep, tasting blood and smoke and something new. When they pulled apart, her eyes glowed with something warmer than gold. "You're not just a fugitive to me anymore," he said. She touched his chest above his heart. "And you're not just a soldier." They turned together and vanished into the forest. The sky above shimmered faintly. Another ship had entered orbit, but this time they were ready. Narla crouched beside the wreckage of the alien strike ship, her fingers gliding across a half-cracked interface panel. The logs were still intact, encrypted but basic. She scanned, line by line. Arrival time, terrain analysis, 5 units deployed. Nothing. No mention of her, no transmission sent, no confirmation of capture or sighting. She exhaled slowly. "No one knows I'm here." Ken stood behind her, rifle slung low. "Good." She tapped a sequence on the cracked console and stood. A soft chime sounded, barely audible. "What did you just do?" "Self-destruct." She stepped back. "Full atomic deconstruction, no explosion, no signal, just gone." The wreckage flickered. A strange shimmer rippled over its surface, like glass breaking across dimensions. Then, without sound, without heat, the entire craft disintegrated into sparkling dust. It vanished into the morning air. Ken blinked. "That's a neat trick." She turned to him. "Now we disappear too." Denver pulsed with energy. The noise, the chaos. It overwhelmed Narla at first, but she adapted quickly. Using her disguise implant, she looked entirely human. Tan skin, black hair, soft amber eyes. She still turned heads wherever she went, but she knew how to deflect attention just enough. Her stride remained regal, her confidence undiminished. They purchased a modern loft in Lodo, close enough to people to disappear in the crowd, but high enough above street level to feel safe. Cash was never an issue. Narla sold just enough gold and diamonds, spaced across multiple locations, careful to use intermediaries. Ken handled the paperwork, she handled the persuasion. They shopped without guilt. Ken wore his usual flannel and boots, Narla preferred something else. In one boutique, she emerged from the dressing room wearing skin-tight black jeans that looked nearly painted on. A leather vest hugged her torso, unzipped just enough to hint at cleavage. Over it, she wore a dark brown leather jacket with soft fur trim along the collar and sleeves. On her feet, knee-high boots, supple leather, fur lining the tops to match the jacket. Ken nearly dropped the bag he was holding. Narla twirled once, then faced him with a smirk. Too much? His eyes narrowed. You know exactly what you're doing. As they stepped out onto the sidewalk, passers-by stared. Some subtle, some blatant. Men turned their heads, women raised eyebrows. One couple stopped mid-conversation to glance at her, dumbstruck. She walked a little closer to Ken. I enjoy this planet. Yeah, he muttered. It's about to enjoy a lot more of you. Time passed. Quiet days, coffee on the balcony, late-night walks, laughter over takeout boxes. No gunfire, no blood, no sirens in the night. Ken changed too. He stopped double-checking every lock, stopped flinching at helicopters, stopped waiting for the next fight. Their bedroom glowed in soft amber light. The city hummed outside, distant and muffled behind thick glass. Ken lay on the bed, bare chest rising slowly, arms folded behind his head. He heard the door open. Soft footsteps, then the unmistakable click of high heels on wood. He looked up. Narla stood at the foot of the bed. She wore a sheer black catsuit laced with swirling golden filigree. It clung to her like skin, revealing everything while hiding nothing. The material shimmered as she moved, catching the light with each step. Beneath it her body was flawless, sculpted, sensual, alien, and impossibly beautiful. She climbed onto the bed slowly, like a predator. Her hands touched his chest, then slid down his stomach, fingers grazing the top of his waistband. You're dangerous like this, he whispered. She smiled, golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark. I was born for duty, she murmured, straddling him, lowering herself with exquisite slowness. But I ran. For you. Ken reached up, hands gripping her hips as he pulled her the rest of the way down. Their mouths met, rough and deep. The rest of the world fell away. Later, tangled in sheets and breathless, she rested her head on his chest. Ken kissed her hair and said softly, "Then stay, for us." She didn't answer, she just held him tighter.